Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Getting Uncomfortable podcast. I'm your host, Eric Uresk, and today I have a very special guest, UFC featherweight, former lightweight, maybe back to lightweight, we don't know yet, Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy, great to have you on the podcast.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Welcome.
Yeah, so just for the listeners, man, this podcast is about getting into we can listen to you talk about fights on other shows and all that stuff. What I want to know about is the mental and emotional transformation of Jeremy Stevens and the story of maybe how that came about and sort of your journey with personal development and how that all got started and we'll talk about what your life's like now, before and after.
Nice. That's a long ride right there. That's a journey, man.
Right
That's
on.
a journey.
Well, just take us into it. As much as you're comfortable with, tell us what brings a kid from Iowa. Like, how does a kid from Iowa get started? Into the career path that you got started into. Like, the kind of the things that led up to that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. Growing up, my parents were first together. I could just initially remember going. I lived on a busy street. There was a busy street, and then I kind of broke off into a road, but I had a hill, and there was like a busy street. Always loved baseball, sports, always just getting after it, but I would always risk going to the top of this hill in this little car that I had, and I lived next to a funeral home, and then there was like the funeral home was a right, and then you had one last exit, and it was like this like yellow house just right on the corner before you literally went out into a busy street. And I was just about that action, man. I love going up on top of the hill, and like my grandparents would be over and they'd be running down trying to catch me, and they would just see me, and I just knew how to always turn in that last little exit, and always just taking a risk taker, man. And that's just the very base of it. That like my very first memory, I could have a taste for that adrenaline, that risk taking.
Right on. How old were you when you had your first street fight?
Probably I'd say second grade.
Second grade.
Second grade, yeah.
Huh? And how'd that make you feel?
Uh,
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was like I felt like this kid. I was like I was like talking to this girl, and he was like, "That's my girl," and I was like, "Oh no, she's with me, man." And we got into it, and it was like that old school, like, "Hey, my dad knows karate," and I was like, "Yeah, my dad knows like Kichundo," and the next thing you know, he was like shoving me, and I'm shoving him back, and got into a little bit of scrap. But as far as like it made me feel good. I felt like I was able to protect myself, and it felt good just kind of know that I could have like protection.
Yeah, I remember for me, like early street fights, like, because my house was so hectic, I didn't feel like I had any control in the house. But when I beat somebody up in a street fight, I felt like, oh, this is what control feels like. You know what I mean? It was like that shit was addictive to me right away. So I was like trying to get in as many fights as I could, like right away. I'm assuming you got in a few more street fights after that one.
Yeah, growing up, my household became erratic at the point where there was a lot of there's just like a lot of abuse in the home. My parents just really didn't get along, and that was their path to deal with. They decided to separate, but my mom, she took an addictive pattern and just kept going downstream, and at a very young age, I just remember being like, I do not want to live like this. I bounced around. I went to like 14 different elementary schools. Showed up, garbage bag full of clothes, people bullying me, picking on me, being taken advantage of, I never felt comfortable. And the only way to do that was through sports and try to interact with kids like around the neighborhood. But I always felt like I had to protect myself. And at a young age, man, I was always scrapping, but I knew if I could just connect, I was dropping kids since like I've been in like fifth grade. I remember a particular story where I fought this kid. I show up the first day, and like he's just already kind of like, I guess that's the guy, and girls were like, oh, hey, like this kid's kind of cute, he's the new guy, right? And I just remember like going around the park, and this kid's like, I want to fight you, and I'm just like, I don't really want to fight you, like I don't really know why, we just can't just be friends. And he lived like halfway from like where I live, but I always had to follow his path. And one day after school, just remember getting into a fight with him, and then after beating him up, and we became best friends after that, and we were kind of similar.
That's how it goes oftentimes, right? You make real good friends after you kind of share a little bit of mutual combat with one another, and it's hard not to respect somebody after they're willing to throw down. And so, at what point do you say, maybe I can turn this into a living?
Yeah, man. I tell you what, Dana White said something. I don't really disagree with Dana White. He's a beast for a reason. But I kind of disagree with him when he's like, this is an opportunity, not a career. And I was like, I actually made a career out of opportunity. And like me and like you say, guys like Jorge Masvidal, the Diaz's. But if you look at us, we have a deep-rooted history to like the street.
Yeah.
Some type of more primitive skill to protect yourself. And when the opportunity did knock, we took it. And it just goes to show, like, our primitive skills, our street fighting skills, are like just getting down to it. Like, it remains the same in this type of martial arts lifestyle. And we're just able to channel it and turn it into a career.
Yeah, I know you've done an amazing job, and you've been a mainstay in the featherweight and lightweight division, and a top 10 guy for a long time now. I mean, that's not easy in those divisions. It's not easy in general, but it's really not easy in those divisions. And you've been a guy that I've watched, kind of transform yourself over a bunch of times. For me, fighting definitely gave me that feeling of control, and but at a certain point, it's like I couldn't just rely on that anymore. Like, I had to start learning some life skills. You know what I mean? Like, just getting by on the ability, like, to have violence, whether it was for my career or just walking around with that sense of confidence. Like, I couldn't develop close relationships with people because I relied too heavily on that stuff. And did you ever have an experience like that where it's like, okay, I got to go a little bit deeper in life than just my fists?
Yeah, I would just say to that, just that fighting is, they say it's like a lonely sport, and it is, in a sense, if you look at it like that. But I don't have to be alone. There was a long time where I just felt like I had to do everything on my own. No one's looking, no one cares. Just grind, bite down, and really run yourself like really ragged into like a dark mental state. Where like, I live in San Diego, my family's back in Iowa, so there's just times where I'm like, man, I don't feel like that connection with people back home. Like, no one's really reaching out, no one loves me, until like I just realized, like, I'm the source. Like, I can choose to call them. Why not call them while I'm running? Why not? And I do this a lot. People call me, like, are you running? Like, yeah, fuck yeah. What's up, man? How you doing? How's things going? And it took a lot of emotional intelligence, going to classes, going to courses, and just failing over and over again, never giving up on the dream, believing, taking that leap of faith, and just have a constant evolving attitude. You're going to fall down a lot, just in life in general, not fighting. You're going to fall down. You have to constantly be picking yourself up, rebuild yourself. You have data if you're in the present moment, and you can work on that data. And there's a lot to that, but yeah, of course, you always want to be in that developing and growing mindset. It's good for the mental game and longevity in life.
Yeah, I think mixed martial arts in general is a sport that's constantly evolving, and the guys that stop evolving, eventually they just kind of drift away. But I think one of the most slept on things, like one of the things that's most underutilized, is evolving sort of spiritually and emotionally, right? And because for me, evolving spiritually and emotionally, that's going to be how I handle fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I get into that cage or I step in to compete or anything like that, I mean, that's really what I'm dealing with mostly is how do I channel that fear, right? How do I deal with that fear? How do I work through that fear? And having tools to actually work through that, other than just try to like give myself a pep talk, you know what I mean? And kind of move through it blindly. I mean, that's one way to do it, and it works for some people, but having tools, I think, is such an advantage, man. Do you feel like the work you've done emotionally and spiritually has helped you as a fighter?
Yeah, I mean, I had to go completely outside of myself, in order to grab everything that I have now. I mean, sitting here poolside, mountain view.
Right.
I mean, if you guys could just see this, compared to living in a shelter, garbage bag full of clothes, broken home, getting kicked out, seeing your mom get beat on by just random dudes, waking up in crack houses. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is real life, so I literally had to transform myself and teach myself, learn myself mental toughness. I chose to mental toughness. I chose to wrestle. I chose to play baseball, sports, constantly growing, because at a young age, again, I just realized, like, this is not what I want. I don't want to be living in a shelter. I don't want to be getting picked on. I don't want to be smelling like this, going to school. Like, this is a life that I don't want. And I had to dig deep, reading books, having some coaches around. But overall, just no one's going to do shit for you but you. And you can choose to bring you can actually attract a lot of like positive energy. You can attract negative energy as well. But if you attract these positive coaches and you're working hard, you're attracting these positive leaders, you're constantly putting out and you're going outside yourself and you're becoming something you're completely not. But you're sticking to the script, you're sticking to the disciplines, you're channeling that energy, that everything that you have in life, and you're constantly just picking yourself apart and recreating yourself and making yourself better off of choice, reaching outside the boxes, becoming. It's a be, do, have. I'm being away, I'm doing these things, and I'm gonna fucking have that. That's
Right.
be, do, have.
Yeah, man. I think like choice, is another word for accountability. Like I can choose to be accountable, or I can choose to be a victim of the story that I have for myself, and continue to live on this old story. So for you, like you just said, wow, like living in shelters, waking up in crack houses, abuse and just chaos all around, and now you live in a beautiful home in a beautiful location with a family, and your daughters will never know what that life's about. That's got to feel good as a man, to like that you provided all that for your kids, and that they won't know anything about that life ever in their life. You know what I mean? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, actually, I would say they kind of do know about that life a little bit. I'd love to touch on like a subject, just for Christmas, we're down there at the shelter. My boy Danny Martinez, he moved to the East Coast. One of your good friends, he take me down to Father's Joe's, and he's like, hey man, do you want to come to the shelter? You ask somebody like that, and like, I really don't. People stay away from these people. You see somebody on the street, you're like, oh, that guy's crazy, I'm just gonna stay away. But I actually take my kids into that lifestyle, take them into the shelter. I take them and we treat them like respectable people, because I said, hey, your dad once lived here. This really taught me about a lot about life, and I they're very blessed in that sense, where hey, there's a pool, there's a house, there's tons of opportunities, but they're very aware of how their dad grew up. So I like to kind of play with that, because that really broadens their mind a little bit and kind of welcomes to my realm, and that hey, my dad does work hard, he's a leader, look at him go, look at him, and they constantly want that, and they attract that in their life. Well, hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I don't have kids, but I often think of like, everybody I know that's interesting, right, struggled a lot, right, and so it's like we, when we have people that we love, we don't want them to sort of struggle or suffer unnecessarily, right? We want to kind of shield them from those things, but also like a lot of those challenges is what makes people interesting, so it's like I think it's cool that you go and let them see that yeah, you have it nice, the way you're living, and understand that, and there's people that aren't so fortunate, and that this is a real thing, and kind of make that tangible for the kids, so that they understand that they are privileged, and that even though some people aren't privileged, it's you can still treat them like human beings, because they are human beings.
Exactly. And that's one thing I've always kept in like my religious thing is, and Jamie Del Ferro, my coach's wife, I've done some mental work with her, and one of the things too that I just picked up over the few years that I've always known, but just a little tool I have, is like 3 things I'm grateful for when I wake up and when I go to bed. And it's just as simple as that. And when I can actually say those things that I'm grateful for, they're very big things to me. And that's like, it's my source. That's my power.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've been in the game a long time, right? You've been, you're one of the more popular fighters in the UFC, and exciting. And what keeps you hungry to keep going like this deep in the game? Like how do you manage to stay hungry? Because we were just talking about this. It's like fighting's a hard fucking job to do if it's not in your soul. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh fuck yeah! Feel what you're saying.
Yeah. And so like, how do you keep that fire lit after being in the game? How long are you signed with the UFC now?
Since 2007.
Wow.
13 years in May, I believe it was. Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Made a career, Dana.
Yeah.
Made a career off opportunities, and I can't wait to the next one. So shout out Dana, man. He's a fucking man. He's a beast.
So, how do you stay hungry?
Because I fucking love it, dude. I love that, and I love the fans. I actually went to Miles Jury. He just fought this weekend. Guys just come up to me and, man, I love the way you fight. But a great coach, and another coach, Henry Hooft, and just a great coach. I've seen him do amazing work. Mike Chandler just over his win over Benson Henderson. He might come over to the UFC, but just guys like that. I walk outside, I see him. He's relaxed. He's got gray hair. He's a little older guy. He's wise. He's in the game. He's out meditating, just closing his eyes, and he wakes up and he starts chatting to me, Miles, and we're all sitting there, and OJ, and he's just like, throughout the week, Jeremy, I really like the way that you fight, man. And if you're ever down my way, feel free to stop by. I was like, yeah, of course, of course. And he's just like, really love your style, man. Not a lot of people do that. And before he left, he's like, enjoy it, guys. Really enjoy it. Because he's like, I too want to come back. He's like, I know I really can't. I mean, you probably choose to come back, say like a Mike Tyson if you really want to, but he's like, really enjoy it because you're really going to appreciate these moments that you're in. And I try to just live by that because I really do love it. I know fighting's going to pass, but I do wake up every day really hungry, really excited, really motivated. Like, I keep a young spirit in me. And I remember telling myself at a young age, don't ever forget the fucking savage rawness, what really brought you here. Really street fighting mentality, skills, just to primitive protect yourself. Remember we were talking about the shelter. I didn't want nobody to fuck with me. So I just learned how to just protect myself and mask things up along the way, right? We're talking about getting uncomfortable. I learned to really shelter myself into a box, and it almost kind of fucked me over getting too deep into that dark side. But martial arts it's a lifestyle. It's about channeling everything, focus, time, and it all comes together full circle.
Yeah, it's you bring up one of my favorite subjects, right? It's like Henry said, and Henry's a great coach. I've gotten to do a little work with him. He coached my friend Ryan LaFleur, and I've gotten to attend his seminars. And brilliant guy, one of the best in the game. But enjoy it, right? Enjoy it because it's a fucking short window, dude.
Yeah.
I remember being 24, 25, and like just kind of starting out and thinking like I'm gonna be young forever. Now I'm approaching 40 now. My fighting days are long gone behind me.
Looking great, by the way.
Yeah. But
looking jacked and tan right now.
But man, it's like watching you guys go out there and get that. My biggest hope for you guys every day in that room is that you don't look past the gift of what's sitting in front of you right now. Because there's I'm happy and my life's great right now, and I wouldn't go back if I could. Like I'm super happy with where my life is right now. But my biggest regret is that I didn't enjoy life in the moment as much as I wish that I could have, because, I mean, man, one day you will be 40,
Yeah. I feel like, actually, I love actually watching your stuff and following you, especially as my coach. Now you do recognize that, we actually get the choice, or we get another day. Every day we wake up like, it's here and now. I've gone fucking off the fucking walls and in the deep ends, into the partying, into the downs, and my self-sabotage. I'm my biggest fucking, as much as like I can really brighten up life, like I've gotten down. And my coach Eric, he's really came to me like a father figure and somebody of a wise man, somebody who can really guide me and lend a ladder to really pull me up. And he's like, you got today, man. Today's the choice, and that's as simple as that. These little simple things to really just lift you up. Because you never know, man. Life can bring a lot at you, and you got to channel it.
Yeah. It's this ride can be quick, it can be long, right? But it will end, right? Whether it goes quick, whether it goes long, it will end, and it's so important. Whether you're a kid that's never gonna go anywhere, whether your best you can get out of yourself is that you win a couple local fights or whatever. It's like you don't know where fighting's gonna take you, right? But with an open mind, it'll take you cool places. Like I didn't know that I would end up being happier as a coach than I was as a fighter. You see guys like Dominic that, kind of still fighting, but also has a nice career for himself with the analyst work that he does. And, the relationships that you get to build with people that you would never meet otherwise, because we're literally people from all over the fucking place.
Yeah, straight up.
It's pretty wild, the people that we get to mix it up with and share ideas with. And, we're fortunate in that, our circle, of guys and the veterans in the team, a lot of our conversations are, when we were young, our conversations were probably a little bit different, and we were more concerned about what we were going to do that weekend as opposed to how we were growing as individuals on this journey. So it's pretty wild. I think people would be surprised that the bulk of our conversations are about moving forward in life and how we can help each other elevate and progress and whatnot. And I think like the team atmosphere is super important for that. Like surrounding yourself with people that you want to emulate, you want to be like, or that are walking in the same direction as you, man. Because it's like really easy as a fighter to get bogged down with guys that just want to get your free drinks at the beer at the bar or whatever, and kind of pull you down into that. And they mean well. They mean well, but it can be really easy to get pulled down into that low energy. Like for me, it was like all I cared about was women and kind of chasing that sort of idea of myself, right? It's like when I get this success and if enough people know my name, like then I'm gonna be happy. And like none of that stuff. Even people that get to the highest levels of success, I'm observing them not be happy when they get there.
Yeah.
And
See famous people too. It's just that success is a mindset. It's not like a Lamborghini or a big house. Success is a mindset. And you're like, when you talk about spiritual, you're rich at heart if you value family, you value your word, you're being honest. You know, it's a mindset. And you know, materialistically, all that stuff can really drag you down. But it's really your choice. It goes back to you attracting. Like, what are you attracting? What are you putting out? You got to be the source of that.
Yeah, it's wild because, you know, when we were younger and training partners, you know, life was a little wilder back then, and it's like now you're a family man. And I see you truly enjoy like being home with the kids, right? Everybody else's kids, right? And you're just, you know, happy being, you know, a dad and an uncle to all these kids, and just, you know, having people over, and it seems like that's a lot more fulfilling to you than that other way of life.
Yeah, for sure, man. I do look at that, you know, because I was a little bit of a wild animal. I was just a fucking loose cannon, you know, like Tommy and Goodfellas just go off on you. But I really do, man, because now even more as my kids grow older, I'm a lot more aware. You know, as a young kid, I was younger, I was wilding out. I didn't give a fuck. I made more in 15 minutes you did in 15 months. I was just like, I don't give a fuck about you. You never care about me. I was just so in my own fucking zone. I just didn't really fuck with nobody. It brought me to a high level. But when I look back and I had kids, you know, people are like, oh, you know, your career's over. Never give up on your dream. Never. I don't listen to fucking people. If I listen to people, you know, they told me, oh, you're not going to have this. Or like, when are you going to realize fighting doesn't pay the bills? Well, I didn't believe what you had to say. I didn't care. So I just chose to go my own fucking route and do my own thing and just really believe in myself. So really just kind of took me, what were we going back to?
Just how you enjoy your family,
yeah,
you know,
so
compared to like your former lifestyle.
Yeah, so whiling out and then going to having a family, and everybody's like, you know, oh, you're gonna have a family now, you're gonna settle down, like, you know, they look at you and you're like, no, watch what I can do, motherfucker. Like, I'm not gonna give up on my dream. That actually makes me more hungry. A lot of people go, well, you know, kids, they ruin careers, they slow you down. No, they fucking don't. 'Cause I'm telling you, dude, if that kid's is screaming, you know, they need fed. There's nobody like me that really comes from like the fucking bottom. Like when I get down at my lowest, that's when I'm like at my most primitive. That's when I fucking come back and I go, watch what I can do. Watch how I bounce back. Watch how I go through adversity. Like, watch this. And then it came to a point where I grew up. I became more aware. I started developing myself at a higher level and looking at really truly what did I want, investing in myself. Not only that, but, you know, I was of service to my kids because I wanted them to have a lifestyle that I didn't. So now when I look at them at 8 years old, my daughter's 11, their life is not chaos. It's not going in and out of crazy households and upbringings. You know, I'm here, like I'm really like enjoying it. Like, man, that's what I attracted. That's what I wanted as a kid. To a real source of a good point here is that I wanted that love. I wanted someone to fucking like reach out, say everything's gonna be okay. I was just fucking
we all did, right? That come from that kind of background. It's like your kids, you can tell there's a lot of love in their life. You know, which is I mean, what else can you do, man? You know what I mean? Like,
just give your heart, man.
Yeah,
give it
it's
up.
like, what else?
Give your heart to somebody else, dude, and say, here, this is my heart, and be okay with that. And you know, no barriers, bro. We're like you said, we're human beings. Like, I'm literally just pulling my heart out and give it to you. Like, this is my heart to any human being, bro. You know, a lot of San Diego bums. You know, I'm always trying to just, you know what, my life's good. Here's $1. Any way I can give a chance to be a human being, but that it's all just the source, the value, core values of like how Jeremy Stevens operates, and it just ripple effects to my family.
Yeah, I know for me, when I'm out and I'm giving of myself and I'm coming from a place where, you know, I'm full, I seem to enjoy life a lot more. When I get to these places of like I'm being stingy and I'm holding on to the corner of the bag for me, you know what I mean? And it's all about me. It's all about me. I get real lonely real fast, dude. And it seems like, you know, everybody seems so far away when I'm like that, and sometimes it just takes like the flip of a switch to realize, oh yeah, you're living in this fucking scarcity mindset, and you know, creating enemies and creating distance from people, and it literally just takes me to like get still, get aware, you know, having the awareness to see that I'm doing that, right, and then I have to give of myself. Like, I got to literally reach out and do something selfless. So that I can get out of that just that weird place of just looking out for me. You know, it feels so much better to engage with people on a human level than it does to just look out for number one. And that's like, man, if I could have learned anything sooner, I wish I learned that a bit sooner than I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Power of vulnerability and be do have.
Mm.
You know, sometimes, man, if like I would have even said like, hey, I need some help, maybe I would have got it. You know, but maybe I wouldn't have been the way that I am now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think everybody has to go through their own process. You know, like they say, like that butterfly effect. The butterfly's meant to struggle. Like, don't help it. Maybe don't help it. Maybe that's why we go through these things. But, you know, going back, shout out to the Choice Center people. Power, vulnerability, and the be, do, have. Sometimes we get so in our fucking selves and we shelter out. But when we notice that, like, we become aware, like, if I can just be this way, even though I may be down in the fucking dumps, but if I can just become a way of being, if I can just open up a door and I'm doing these things, I'm going to start having that same respect back. And, you know, it happens to everybody. You know, any day, anytime we can get in this low mode, but just recognize it, having that awareness. If I be this way, if I do these things, I'm going to have it.
Yeah, despite how I feel, I can always choose to act like the kind of human being that I want to feel like, right?
Yep.
I may not feel like it at the time, but the minute I start putting action in to okay, how do I think this guy feels? Let me act that way, right? And I start putting in the action, the feelings kind of catch up pretty quickly. Yeah, that energy kind of, you know, it sounds crazy to people, but man, there is a lot of fucking power in action, you know, and in taking some accountability, you know, like I have to look at the way that I feel. And I don't like to use the word it's my fault, right? But I'm accountable for how I feel, right? I'm accountable for how I react to people. And I've been doing a lot of sitting with this lately. It's like this idea of, and it's an Eckhart Tolle from his books. And he says, be at least as interested in your reaction to things as you are in the things that made you react, right? So I can't change the things that go on around me, right? And sometimes I can't even change my initial reaction. Sometimes my initial reaction is what it is, and a lot of times it's not a great one, right? But I can always become aware of the reaction and be like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. I should be interested in why I reacted this way, right? And then I can start to take some, because now I'm aware, okay, I'm watching myself behave like this. Is this the way that I prefer to be? Is this my best self, right? Am I capable of doing more? And then when I start to draw that awareness in, I can maybe make amends for how I reacted poorly, and then move forward acting in a different way that seems to get me better results, you know?
Accountability is a life skill. And that's important because, you know, as you grow up, say you like some guy comes up to you and then you just react, you punch the guy. And maybe you don't even know. Maybe you go your whole fucking life until you're like on your deathbed and then you reach out and say sorry.
Yeah.
But like, what if like you just have that awareness, like, why am I doing that? You know, what patterns am I doing? Like, do I need to go back and apologize? Do I feel wronged? Like, am I playing victim? That power of accountability is amazing, and you can transform your life with just these simple skills. And like, how am I reacting like that? Why am I reacting? How deep does my pattern go to these reactions? And again, you know, knowing that data, again, being aware, like you say, and then being able to take that action, move that energy into that positive. What do I want to be? What do I really want out of this? And go to that good energy.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about that. Like, you know, going back to people, like as a kid, you know, I did a lot of dirt, and I've had to go back to people that I stole their wedding ring, and say, hey, you know, I stole your wedding ring when I was 17. I used to break into your house and steal all kinds of shit, and you know, and slowly pay that money back. And and it was a weird feeling. It's weird going to people like decades later and saying, hey man, this is what I did. And the weird thing is watching their reaction. Like, these people were thankful that I came and you know, kind of admitted this wrong that happened so long ago. And it was really freeing too. It was really freeing. And it was like just that action, like, honestly, money started coming in from all over the place after I corrected that action. It's the craziest fucking thing, because I used to rob and steal a lot. I used to do a lot of that. Was a big part of my youth was that. And anytime I've gone and repaid like an old debt from somebody that I've robbed or stolen from, things seem to shift, and I get a little bit more free, and it's almost like enticing to go out and seek this stuff out, because it literally works out in my favor every time. Like, working to correct these sort of old behaviors or these old wrongs that I did that I never sort of atoned for. And it's a powerful feeling, man, to be able to go out and do that stuff and kind of set things right that that I wasn't able to as a kid, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to be hanging on to that stuff, because no matter what, that's like they say, karma, it just hangs on you. You know, you don't want that to hang on you, man. If you got something to say, let it go. Free yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that accountability, free yourself from that. Tell someone you're sorry. So, man, I was having a fucking bad day that day. I didn't mean to fucking snap on you, dude, but I did snap on you. But here's my explanation. I'm sorry that I did that, and that's very wrong of me to really stand over you and shout at you or wrong you. And when you let that go, man, you free your heart. And that fucking, there's no better feeling than that, bro. That's happiness. That is a real key to success right there. And it's fucking hard, and it's like almost embarrassing to do. Like, as a man, I don't want to go apologize to somebody. You don't want to apologize. Maybe I spilt my beer on your shirt or whatever, you know, like, whatever. I don't. It's like it's
uncomfortable.
Humbling. Yeah, it's uncomfortable as fuck, but it's freeing as hell to really let yourself go and apologize to that person. Just know that you have that mental tool to communicate with a person, and just really it brings a better connection. You know, instead of like, what is the opposite of that? Like hostile environment.
Right.
This guy's getting mad. He kills me. Tries to run me over. Shoots somebody. I mean, you hear it all the time.
Well, it looks a lot like what my household looked like, right? Nobody taking accountability for anything.
Reckless.
And God forbid you made a mistake, you'd be fucking chastised and raked over the coals for it. And it's like, nah, man, we can just have a conversation about this. You know what I mean? Like, my first reaction to like disagreements is always, it's usually not a good one. It's usually I want to use force to like rectify the situation. I gotta breathe. I gotta pause. You know what I mean? And like go back to and kind of come back to, okay, what do I know to be the right way to go about this situation? But hanging on to those like old energies, man, it's like I'm not aware of how much that was weighing me down until I let it go.
Yeah.
You know, like I've held on to stuff for you know, decades and was able to release it and had no fucking clue how much that was like lead in my shoes until I let it go, and I literally feel lighter. I feel lighter physically. I feel just much more connected to the people and the community around me. It's fucking wild, man.
Yeah. Man, I went to Choice Center. I was 31, maybe 32 before I got freed. There's a lot of stuff. Like, you talk back, man. I reached out to an old friend of mine, and I hit him up one day. Like, a couple months I seen him. I was back in Des Moines, Iowa, my hometown. Fast forward, like a quick story. I'm at a wrestling meet. I end up running to the guy, and he's like yelling at me, and I'm like, I just walked away. And then I'm with my Uncle Gino, who like got me into fighting. I'm with him. I'm like, hey, let's bounce out. Let's get out of here. I just ran into him. He's like, man, I just want to go see him. Let's go talk to him, like, see what his problem is. And I'm like, no, we couldn't even get back in. It was Brian Keck's wrestling tournament. You know, shout out Brian Keck, rest in peace. And, you know, we go outside, and I see this guy. And there was a lot of things like I was holding on that I really wanted to say. We had like I felt like this guy wronged me, whatever it was. We weren't friends for a long time, and we grew up together. And, you know, I had it out. I was like, basically, fuck you, man. You wronged me. Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you know, like, and I had it out. I had bad negative words. And I went off with my uncle, and I'm just like, man, fuck him. You know, like, I can't believe that. I ended up going to Choice Center. It's a emotional intelligence class in Las Vegas, and my coach ended up enrolling me into going. And when I first heard about it, it sounded like he got like abducted. But I'm like, you know what, these guys fucking, I want to get abducted too. Like, this sounds nice. Like, this sounds like what I need. Like, and you know, fast forward, I go through the course. I end up reaching out to this guy like 2-3 months later, after I just kind of was like, man, fuck you, dude. You know, I reached out to him and like freed myself, apologized to him, took accountability for things, and was like, hey man, I feel like, you know, I'm a completely different person. I'm sorry, this and that, and we're remaining a good friendship now. And I'm reaching out, and we just talk about things and go back. But a lot of people look at that and kind of judge me like, man, why would you forgive somebody? Why would you? Because really, it freed my heart. My heart is happy. My heart is at ease. I'm at peace. And, you know, I get to reach out and give him the gift of, you know, forgiving, taking accountability.
Yeah, it's you know, my experience is that I couldn't feel connected to people, and even like, you know, good friends. You know, we'd have, you know, my friends that I grew up with, and, you know, we have memories and stuff, and we have nostalgia together. But I could never have intimate friendships, right? Because at some point, people will always disappoint you. Right, because they're humans, right? Human beings are fallible. Like, even as like one day I'm gonna disappoint you, right? I'm gonna let you down.
Fuck my high school girlfriend or something. Yeah, that always pissed me off.
But even something smaller than that, one day I might just not live up to your expectations, and we have to be able to have a conversation about that if we want to reach a deeper level of understanding. You know what I mean? So if like, man, if I can disappoint you and feel safe to disappoint you, and like, not that I'm going to do it on purpose, but that I'm a human being and it's okay to make mistakes. And it's like you and I have a man-to-man conversation and I say, yeah, Jeremy, I just, I didn't do a good job right then, and I'm really sorry, and you can tell me your point of view. We have a stronger friendship after that, right? And now we have trust.
Yeah.
Right? Now we have trust, because trust isn't trusting that you're never going to fuck up, right? Trust is like, you're safe to fuck up, and I'm still going to be your friend, and I'm still going to be your coach, and all of those things, even if you mess up. And we'll have a conversation about it, and really, I'm just here to help you achieve the best things in your life.
Yeah,
right?
No judgment, man. Not judging or feeling like, oh, I got to be up these expectations. Accountability, being like core values to like relationships, right? Communication, talking, apologizing. It just all goes like, again, full circle, and those really good core values.
Yeah, it's super important. My ability to have friendships, like, since learning how to communicate, has, man, it's gone through the roof. Like it's like I can actually have friends, and I don't have a million friends. I know a lot of people, right? But friendships, like, I have a few, you know what I mean? And my relationships with the fighters that I coach, it's like, that's good for me, man, to like reach some of the guys that want to go a little bit deeper, that I coach. We can go a little bit deeper, and I really enjoy that. And then, even like there's a few friends that I have, and we have, friendships that are we get pretty deep into things, man. We talk about some gnarly stuff, and there's a lot of trust there. And it's a beautiful thing, what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. That, to me, that type of stuff to me is worth way more than all I wanted when I was 25 was everybody to know my name and a house full of lesbians. You know what I mean? That wanted to have sex with me. But none of those things happened. And but I wouldn't have been happy with that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought happiness was. Like, I thought if I get those things, if everybody knows my name, I'll be all right. Then I'll be at this place. Like, no, like, actually having friendships, like having relationships with my parents that are pretty good, even though they didn't, at the time, they struggled a little bit to do a great job when I was a kid. But, now they're doing the best they can. It's like, to be able to meet them at that place, that's fucking awesome.
If you're my friend, you've been through some shit with me. I guarantee it. If you're my friend, or me, you're a coach, you've been through some shit. You've seen some shit. You've heard me probably been more vulnerable than you'd like. You gotta go through the mud with me. You gotta bleed with me in order to, if like we're having a friendship like that. I'm talking like if we're smoking a joint, getting high, crying, talking about the stars and shit, we've been through some shit. And I don't just let, like, like you said, there's a few people. The people that I let in, I'm always trusting to everybody. If you kind of wrong, that's on you. But the real good ones that are value, you've been through some shit. My family, anybody who supported my career, you've been through some shit. My fans, you've all been through some shit with me, and I appreciate it.
So before we close, the name of the podcast is Getting Uncomfortable, right? What scares Jeremy Stevens now, and how does he deal with it?
What scares me is not leaving my best life behind for my kids, falling short, going to God and being like, here's what I did. And he's like, hey, Jay, this is what you did. This is what I had for you. Not really giving myself. I've been, as I get older, I feel like I have like some experiences that I can share with you and help people and reaching out, but not giving my best. That's really what scares me. Not like seceding and everything that I've really fought for and going back to nothing. That is failing to me, is going back to going back to the grind. You want to make something of this, and I've planted this seed of what I call my life, and I'm always watering it, trying to grow. And I'll be damned, I don't want to grow up being short.
Right. And what's for me, like, when I hear that, it's like literally the only person that can get in the way of that is you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the wildest part about our fears.
Accountability.
Yeah, is the only person that's going to fuck that up for me is me.
Yeah. No one's going to do shit for you but you. So if you're in bad shit, guess what? You made a bad choice. If you want to be in some good shit, make a good choice. Literally that easy. Good choice, good life. Bad choice, bad life. You're responsible. No one's going to do nothing for you. Get off your ass. Be, do, have. Even if your way of being sucks, be a different person. Do those things. Have them things. And be persistent.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, we know you're a busy guy, and we had a nice little family day and ate some good food, and figured we'd set up
Hell
a
yeah.
podcast at your house and knock this thing out. But Matt, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you sharing some vulnerable stuff with the audience.
Hell yeah.
And it's really valuable, man. I mean, everybody, we can look at you and kind of assume the kind of person you are from the way you fight. You'd be completely wrong, once they kind of get to know you're definitely an interesting guy and a guy that's deeper than somebody might think. And we appreciate you sharing that side of yourself. I think it would be really valuable to the listeners.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the fans, everybody tuning in. These are great convos, man. I hate interviews and the regular blah, blah, blah fighting. I love this shit. This is cool. I get to share my experience, and hopefully it reaches out to people because, like I said, man, it's your choice, man. Don't ever be down on yourself. Never give up. Believe in your dream and go out and get it.
Right on. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody, for listening, and tune in next time to the Getting Uncomfortable podcast.